Looks like chaos has been waiting for us.
Okay, so I don't need to tell any of you that Square Enix's presentation at E3 was less than stellar. I can't say I'm the only person that was a little disappointed by it. Among what they did show, though, was a trailer for a new Final Fantasy game called Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. Now, personally, I thought the game looked pretty cool. Looked like a fun action RPG. The main problem everybody seemed to be having, though, was the main character's oh-so-appealing, 33-year-old white auto mechanic design, as well as the corny dialogue and his obsession with chaos, more specifically, killing chaos. A lot of times, video game discourse on the internet drives me crazy, but honestly, it all seems almost worth it once in a blue moon when something like this happens. The internet did what it does, and the torrent of memes that started infinitely pouring out following the trailer was some of the funniest shit I've seen in a while. Definitely a highlight of E3 for me, and to be fair, this was probably 50% fueled by a need for entertainment to fill the void that most of E3 wasn't filling. Despite all the jokes, though, the game did look pretty cool. I'm not too experienced with Final Fantasy overall, but I did have fun with Final Fantasy VII Remake, and this looked relatively similar to some degree, so I was excited to try out the demo that Square had revealed they were dropping. And so I downloaded the demo, booted it up, and it crashed. Not just for me, but for every PS5 owner. The demo was completely broken, and no one was able to get it to successfully launch. Over 24 hours went by and it still wasn't fixed. For whatever reason, they didn't even bother to take it off the PlayStation Store, so everyone was just kinda in the dark about it. The official Twitter did make an announcement that they were aware of the issue, but then they went totally silent. Finally, over a day later, and they released a patch, making the demo at long last playable. Despite the setback, I was still eager to try it out. Well, I played through and beat the demo, and what did I think of it? Well, the answer's a bit hard to explain, but I'm gonna try. Before I go into explaining how I almost rage quit the demo, I want to take a minute to talk about this video's sponsor, Fishing Clash. Literally, none of you are aware of this, but when I was little, I really loved fishing. Wasn't very good at it, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. I only ever really got to fish in like a couple lakes here or there, but I still liked it. With Fishing Clash, I can finally live out my dreams of actually catching things other than sunnies and that catfish I caught at scout camp that one time. Fishing Clash is a free-to-play game available on both iOS and Android, with hundreds of different species of fish to discover and catch from all over the world. From carps to catfishes to even sharks, and there's tons of fishing locations available in the game, so whether you feel like fishing in the rivers of the Amazon or Lake Loch Ness, Fishing Clash has you covered. And if I'm being honest here, you are probably not surprised to know that I haven't traveled in over a year, so this is a nice little escape. You can also collect and upgrade your gear, buy new fishing rods, lures, and other equipment to give yourself the upper hand on the big fish. I'm pretty competitive with any game that allows me to be, so I was glad to find out that the game features plenty of challenges, PvP duels, and tournaments. There's also new events and adventures for you to discover each week. And if you're still not convinced, the game has impressive 3D graphics, so while you wait for your next big catch, you can enjoy breathtaking scenery from fishing spots all over the world. Fishing Clash is completely free to play and available on both iOS and Android, so if you'd like to check it out, you can download it from my link in the description, which once again is not only totally free, but also helps support my channel in the process. And once again, big thanks to Fishing Clash for sponsoring the video. Okay, so the demo starts you off with a pretty in-your-face tutorial. It's a literal tutorial area, you're just in a field, and the game spoon-feeds you mechanics one by one. Now, a lot of you probably know I can't stand this kind of thing, but in a game like this, I don't really think it can be helped much because of just how involved the battle system is. I'm gonna be honest, when it comes to explaining intricate battle systems and mechanics like this, I am totally not the guy to ask. I can manage, I can get by, but admittedly, I usually forget or accidentally ignore a lot of mechanics. It's all very overwhelming to me, but what I like about games like this is that a lot of times you can get by just learning the game's basic mechanics. You're gonna have a harder time, for sure, but it's still doable. It's not like if you didn't memorize every last mechanic that you won't be able to have any success in the game. That being said, the game does have some cool mechanics that I did enjoy. One of the game's main mechanics is just how you defeat enemies. There's this break system which basically acts as a stagger meter. You can defeat enemies by taking out all their health still, but each enemy also has a secondary meter which, when depleted, causes the enemy to stagger. When this happens, you can press the circle button to basically perform this game's version of a glory kill. Doing so gives you some MP, so like in Doom Eternal, yes, you should be doing this. The problem is, the player also has this stagger meter, and this becomes an issue later on, but I'll talk about that later. Now, you also have different fighting classes you can select on the fly. I played through most of the demo as a swordsman because I like big swords, and coming directly from FF7R, it felt right at home. But the mage came in handy a lot during the final boss. My main gripe with the mage in particular, though, is that to select which spell you want to use, you get a selection wheel by holding down the attack button. Now, this would be fine, but the selection is for some reason made by the left thumbstick, so I can't tell you how many times I accidentally switched to a different attack just out of habit of moving the left thumbstick during battle. Maybe it's just me, but I found this extremely annoying. Although, come to think of it, there is a chance that this can be changed because the game does give you the option of customizable controls, but I'm not sure if you can remap something like a selection wheel. I'm gonna lean towards probably not, but there is a chance. Now, unsurprisingly, you have a lot of your typical RPG fare here. There's skill trees, weapons and gear to customize, and of course, a leveling system. And the job classes I just mentioned level up individually as opposed to your character leveling up wholesale. Now, this became a little bit of a problem for me because I played through pretty much the whole demo as a swordsman, so I was kind of put into that situation where like you play a Pokemon game and you only level up your starter and then everyone else is weak. Yeah, so I found out that this was an issue the hard way when I needed to use the mage against the final boss. Alright, honestly, this whole video is just like a means for me to talk about the final boss, so let me get into that. I will say, up to this point, I really enjoyed the game. I wish it wasn't so damn dark, but in my opinion, despite hearing people say it looked bad, I thought it looked pretty good, and it ran well too. Well, except for these random spots where the game would start lagging and all the gameplay was choppy, but that was always fixed by closing the game out and then booting it back up. It's gotta be an issue with this specific demo build and not with the game's performance as a whole, because other than that, it ran fine. Anyway, I had a lot of fun with it. It was a little frustrating in parts, but that also probably has to do with the fact that I'm not very good at games like this. That being said, 2/3 of my entire playthrough was spent on the final boss. Oh boy. Alright, so this dude needs work. Alright, this is Garland. He wants to be Chaos, and he's an asshole. It took me 4 hours to beat this boss, and I gave up after 2. And I was only playing on normal mode, so it really shouldn't have been this hard. And it would be one thing if I started up the game on normal mode and I immediately couldn't play it, but like I had no problem getting through the rest of the game, and then all of a sudden the final boss of the demo is 10,000 times harder than anything that was in the rest of it. The difficulty curve is ridiculous. Now, this is partially due to the boss being more difficult than the rest of the demo, but it also has a lot to do with really bad boss design. Cheap and broken AI, which will often bully one character instead of attacking other party members, a complete lack of iframes, and a bit of an inconsistent block mechanic. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention this for some reason. There's a block mechanic where when you use it successfully, you gain MP. That was probably important to mention. Oops. Also, when you use it against certain attacks, sometimes you can get something called an instant ability where you can use the enemy's ability against them like 2 or 3 times. It's cool, but it's really not all that helpful. But I digress. Anyway, you need to use this to defeat the boss. He's relentless in his attacks, and you really don't get many opportunities to attack him because the windows where he's not attacking you are slim. So much like a Souls game, it's better to play the long game with chip damage here. The best thing I've found to do is to wait for him to attack you, use your block, counter him, and then get the f away. AKA, touch him real quick and go. The problem is, if you miss so much as one block, the AI often likes to just relentlessly attack you, not attack anyone else, and because there's no iframes during this, you end up losing a ton of health over one mistake. Now, I mentioned earlier that the player's stagger meter was a problem. Here's why it's a problem. God forbid you miss one block or dodge, the boss can attack you infinitely, and if he manages to stagger you from that, you literally can't get away. You have to just sit there and watch Jack die with absolutely no agency over the situation. Here, I'll play you a clip where I missed one block and the boss just full health to deathed me in like 12 seconds. Yeah, I got a lot of potions there. Wish I could use them. So of course this boss has 2 phases, and his second phase is so much harder than the first phase. Every single time that I managed to actually make it to the second phase, which wasn't a lot, he ended up killing me literally seconds into the fight. And that's when I decided to give up. I wasn't making it to the second phase often enough for me to actually learn how to fight the boss, so after spending 2 hours on this, I just couldn't do it anymore. And then I tried to do it more. Well, I watched a video on it, and I found out that he's weak to some of the magic attacks. And my mage was way too weak to actually go up against him. So there's a big-ass griffin hanging out in a room not too far from the final boss room that gives you a lot of EXP from defeating. So I switched to the mage class and started fighting the griffin over and over. Beat the griffin, saved to make the enemy respawn, because save spots are basically like bonfires from Dark Souls, fought the griffin again, rinse and repeat until I grinded my mage level to something that wasn't laughable. So, remember when I said the boss was really cheap and stun-locked me to death during his first phase, and how the second phase was even harder? Well, here's a clip of me beating his second phase with magic.
Starts to use. Keep it alive. Answers. This will hurt. I've seen that attack before.
Yeah, maybe. We know who does it better.
This will hurt. Light up the sky. You fools! Now we're talking.
Now, I get that this is a demo, and it's meant to both get people excited about the game while also providing feedback to Square and Team Ninja so they can make the game better, but the fact that this boss fight was released publicly is alarming. I think it's safe to say this dude needs some more time in the oven. I've never seen a boss that is simultaneously way too hard and pitifully easy. Can we please redesign this boss to be somewhere in the middle? Please? I like a challenge, but I also don't like ripping my hair out. And I also don't like when a video game is on the same difficulty level as Fisher-Price Perfect Fit on the NES. By the way, if you are interested in checking it out, make sure you try the demo out before they remove it on the 26th, because it's not just for the download. At one point, I lost connection to PSN and the game crashed, so the demo is completely dependent on an internet connection, unfortunately. Honestly though, I really don't blame them, because if I were them, I wouldn't want this build floating around for too long either. Look, despite my gripes with it, I really think this game could actually shape up to be something really good. There's a lot of things I really do like about it. The battle system is super engaging, and it does feel good to control most of the time. Also, I think Pink Hair Boy is pretty cool. But clearly there's a lot of kinks that need to be ironed out, and I really hope Team Ninja takes the feedback from this demo and turns this into a game that's as good as I know it can be. So go try it out if you haven't. And once again, big thanks to Fishing Clash for sponsoring the video. If that's something you'd like to check out, my link will be in the description below. Hey, thanks for watching the video. If you liked it and want to see more, there's a couple other videos right there you can check out. And if you want to see everything I upload, subscribe and then tap the bell icon. And if you want to help support the channel, I have a Patreon right there too.